Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Beauty Within. And we've prepared a really exciting episode for you guys today, having one of our dearest friends, Alicia Yoon, who is the CEO and founder of Peach & Lily, one of our favorite skincare brands. And we thought it would be the perfect way to dig into her brain a little because she has so many little golden nuggets to share with you guys on the topic of hyperpigmentation. So everyone, welcome Alicia!
Thank you so much for having me, ladies. Your YouTube channel is one of my all-time favorites, so I'm super excited to be here.
So Alicia, what will we be covering today?
Yes, so we're gonna dive into all things hyperpigmentation. A lot of questions we get revolve around, number one, what are the different forms of hyperpigmentation? Number two, why does that even happen? And understand how our skin is working. Number three, how do you prevent and improve that hyperpigmentation? And finally, great ingredients and products that can help improve your hyperpigmentation.
So this is essentially going to be a guidebook into hyperpigmentation for you guys, and honestly it's going to be so exciting. We saw a sneak peek that Alicia drew diagrams. We're going to get down into the deeper levels of our skin and really root out why this happens. So grab your drink, grab whatever it is you want to hydrate yourself, and let's get into it. So before we get started, Alicia, could you please share with us how you got to where you are today and what inspired you to create Peach & Lily's and build it into the skincare empire that it is today?
So I grew up with very severe eczema. I mean, I'm talking very visible rashes, bleeding skin, itchy skin. And I kind of thought, all the way up until I was graduating high school, that this is just what I would have to resign myself to. And I was so fed up with having skin that really hurt and bothered me. So I went to esthetician school in Korea to really figure out how I could really control the flare-ups. I learned how to transform how my skin looks and feels. And it really started in me this passion to help other people do the same for their skin, just because I know that it completely transformed how I felt about each day even. Then I moved back to the US and I went to college in the US, and I didn't really think at the time like I'm gonna turn this into a profession. It was something that was just very personally like a passion of mine. So nights and weekends I'm doing facials. My home and dorm room at the time was always like an apothecary.
Yeah.
And at that time I started my career as an investment banker. Then I was a management consultant, and then I went to business school, and that's where it kind of dawned on me, wait, I want to do something entrepreneurial, and I want to do something that I'm super passionate about. After graduating business school, I actually went back into consulting for a couple years. Then I had my aha moment, and I thought, I have been just like obsessed with helping people with their skin for so long. I actually want to do this like full time. As soon as I realized that, I just have to start this company. I'm so passionate about, skincare, and that was 2012, and Korean beauty wasn't really accessible in the US then. And so It was starting with Korean beauty because I thought when it comes to improving your skin, you want all the various tools in the toolbox. And the fact that there were some tools just missing because Korean beauty wasn't widely available in the US, I wanted to bring those tools over so that we're as empowered as we could be to really transform our skin. That's how Peach & Lily started 8 years ago now.
So for those of you who haven't heard about Peach & Lily or even Alicia, can you tell us a little bit about how you go about curating the products that go onto the website, how you develop the products that you have as well, under the Peach & Lily brand?
On peachandlily.com, it's sort of this multi-branded website where you're gonna really find the best of Korean beauty, and we have some Japanese beauty products as well. And so the curation process is very extensive. We don't ever compromise our standards. First of all, the brand has to have real traction among consumers because people are seeing results, not because there was some really great marketing campaign. And then after that, our team of estheticians, myself included, will deep dive into the ingredient list. Then we actually bring a select assortment of products that we really kind of hone in on as the best of the best. And we focus group test that in the US, and the brand has to have across the board at least 8.5 out of 10 stars. It has to be an amazing sensorial experience. It has to really deliver results. It can't cause like severe reactions. So that whole process takes a long time. And ultimately, if we look at like 100 brands, through all of those filtering steps, maybe only 5 actually make the cut and onto our site. So we really do all that legwork so that our community has access to the best.
Yeah, I remember the first time we were able to sit down together and talk in your office. Felicia and I were mind blown at how extensive the curation process was. We're just like, wow. And how brands would ask you guys for the results, the clinical or like your studies, because they're like, oh, we know Peach and Lily's like goes out of their way to make sure that the products that they put on their sites are like thoroughly vetted. It's like,
And I think also the fact that like you analyze brands that aren't that well known, you know, so it really does push things forward in a way that's not just like, you know, here's a pretty packaging, or it's like accepted by the mainstream. It's actually, it stands its own ground. So that was what also shocked us as well, and we like truly appreciate it.
And then when it comes to the creation process, so we have our own brands as well. One is called Peach and Lily, and then we have another brand we created called Peach Slices. And for Peach and Lily, it is a very extensive process because we wanted to offer a brand that we call 100% worry-free. First, there's over 1,550 ingredients we never include in our formulas. Then secondly, skincare has to work. So there's always clinically proven ingredients for the benefit that we really offer through that formula at the right percentages at the right pH level. So I'm also a New York licensed esthetician, and I still do facials, and I get it. Even if it's gonna give you great results and it's so great for your skin, if you just really dislike putting that product on,
you're never gonna put it on.
You're never gonna be consistent about it. So it also has to feel amazing. That combination of what we were looking for was actually really tough. We went to the best labs in Korea and got turned down by everybody. They said, as an example, you're trying to bake bread without like baking powder, flour, eggs, like, you know? And we were like, okay, let's like really figure out how we can do this together. So we finally convinced one of the best labs to work with us, where we said, we don't have a product development timeline. This can take 10 years if we needed to, but let's just really make sure we're not compromising on any of these standards. And after some thinking, the chief R&D officer actually said, we will partner with you, and as a historic first, and they work with so many big brands, we will dedicate all 40 plus chemists in our lab to personally create this line with you. And it took a long time. It took years. It didn't take 10 years, thank goodness. But we were really able to create this 100% worry-free line. And I'm just so excited just because the brand is now about 2 years old, and the testimonials that we receive on how people see that it's really helping them transform their skin, that's meant everything.
There's so much confusion with skincare. I think you really do take that element out of it, and it just helps with people exploring and learning more. Yay!
Yeah.
So let's jump into
hyperpigmentation.
Could you describe the different types? Because, we're dealing with different monsters here, and they all need a very specific regimen to help with that.
Just to kind of break it down, so hyperpigmentation, just simply put, are sort of discolored spots on the skin. And the first kind is PIH, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, that is often a result of acne, right? Acne is a wound, and that wound triggers the scarring. Another type is actually PIE. It's not the darker spots that appear as kind of like darker tones or like browner tones, but it's more the red and purplish spots. And a great way that you can tell if it's PIH or PIE is if you press down on your skin, that spot, if it momentarily turns back to your normal skin color, that's probably PIE. And that is a result of more like broken capillaries near the surface of the skin. And that can also be triggered by, acne or certain wounds, inflammation kind of close to the skin. Another kind is melasma, right? That's like the very stubborn, typically kind of broader. It's not like right where the acne happened, but it might just be sort of like this shape that kind of just potentially even grows and spreads, and that can be triggered by, you know, a lot of different things, including excessive sun exposure, hormonal changes, pregnancy even. And then another type of hyperpigmentation is, you know, what people generally call sunspots or age spots, and it really is the accumulation of that sun damage.
Could you share with us why it happens and what's really going on deep under the skin for it to show up on the top of our skin and faces?
The juicy part.
Well, the great news is it's actually not very complicated at all. And I'm no artist, but I kind of prepared like a little diagram for you guys.
It's like a little garden.
So we have the sun here, and we have here our skin surface, right? And we have our pores. This top layer of the skin is your stratum corneum, and it's mainly dead skin cells. So this part is your epidermis, and then underneath is your dermis. This bottom layer is your basal layer. Here you have cells that are alive, there's more water in it, and as it moves up, the cells eventually die, lose water, and that's your cell turnover process. And then underneath in your dermal layer, you have your collagen and elastin fibers and other kind of structural things in our skin. And then even further underneath, you have, you know, fatty tissue, etc. So in that basal layer of the skin, you have melanocytes. And these melanocytes are producing melanin. And when we think about basically our skin color, just naturally, people have varying degrees of melanin. So we're not talking about that, just like your natural skin tone. We're talking about melanocytes that become overactive. Ultimately, what happens is, I kind of just color this green so you can see like the melanin transfer when there's overproduction. And then that eventually, you can kind of think of it as like a dye. And those dyed skin cells eventually will show up on the surface as those darker spots. The key question then is, what makes these guys more overactive, right?
How are they thriving?
Exactly. One of the key things is that our bodies are so smart in a sense and likes to be very protective of us. When you think about what triggers the melanocytes, it's anything that it perceives as kind of dangerous, right? So first of all, the sun, you know, when there's excessive vitamin D exposure, that tells the melanocytes, okay, we're gonna like come to the rescue here. So that's like one thing. When we have acne, which is an open wound, and, you know, oftentimes it's accompanied by inflammation and so forth, the melanocytes are like, okay, I'm coming to the rescue.
Help me.
It's like an overprotective mother.
It is. And melanocytes are so enthusiastic. Once they're overactive, they're like, I'm not convinced yet. It's still dangerous.
I'm not stopping.
Exactly. And PIE, which we talked about earlier, is not as related to the melanocytes. The PIE is more related to, as there's kind of a wound on the skin, the capillaries, the tiny, tiny blood vessels that are closer to the surface of the skin can kind of collapse and break. And that's what can cause the red and purplish marks. The good news is those broken capillaries, like those PIE marks, eventually do mostly heal on their own. The key question is, how do we keep the melanocytes calm?
Calmeth their farmeth.
So the first thing is there's ingredients that just actively calm these guys down. A couple of my favorite ingredients for that, one is niacinamide. It really helps to prevent the transfer of the melanin into the actual skin cells, right? Like easily put. So it actually kind of stops this like dyeing process. Vitamin C, conversely, is an ingredient that also helps to improve the dark spots, but by actually actively just calming these guys down. So they work in slightly different ways, but have very, very similar end benefits. Licorice is actually another ingredient that I love that also works similarly to vitamin C in the sense that it can help kind of just calm these overactive guys down. The second part of that is exfoliation, right? So let's say you're using the brightening ingredient. So these guys are now calmed down, but now you have all of this here that's still, you know, hyperpigmented. So that cell turnover process just helps to kind of, you know, almost like wash it off more easily. Obviously it's not washing it off, but like remove it. Just a quick note there though is the stratum corneum is the dead skin cells that are really there to be a protective barrier on your skin. And above it, you have an invisible layer called your acid mantle. That's a chemical barrier. So the question is, why are we exfoliating this like protective barrier off our face? Like, isn't that worse? And the answer is, you know, for sure, you don't ever want to over exfoliate because, you know, you don't ever want to go past the dead skin cells and now you're just irritating, you know, the rest of your skin barrier, and really your skin has no more protection left. Because once that happens, remember we talked about the melanocytes, they like to be very protective. And once that skin barrier is completely disrupted and eroded, it senses danger and it has a harder time just calming down because it actually is almost like another type of wound, if you will, because that skin barrier is so raw. So you don't want to over exfoliate, but you still want to exfoliate because for whatever reason, when we turn around like in our 20s, our bodies just decide that the cell turnover process is just gonna get like slower. It just gets like kind of lazier.
Right when it starts to matter.
Just as like, I'm just taking my time now. So the exfoliation just helps that cell turnover process stay boosted and stay optimal. So you want to exfoliate, but you just don't want to overdo it. And number 3 is actually very interesting to me. So we talked about how these dead skin cells on top have pretty much no water content. And underneath, there's more and more water content. Now, water is the key to life. And when we are dehydrated in our bodies, but also when our skin is dehydrated, it can even trigger inflammation. And when inflammation is triggered, a lot of things can happen, including even our fibroblasts that make collagen and elastin, they can decide to like not be as functional. Also, you know, it can trigger more oil production. It can actually slow down that cell turnover process. So you can actually get more breakouts, but also more directly when there's just a lack of water content in our skin, the melanocyte can even kind of feel like, okay, I have the brightening ingredients, that's all good. I'm exfoliating, okay, like more cell turnover. However, it's really dry in here. There's like no water in here. I feel like it's still kind of dangerous. I'm gonna stay overactive. So hydrating your skin is such an important part of helping with hyperpigmentation. And oftentimes that gets kind of forgotten or people aren't as aware about that.
Oh my gosh. I love when things are explained in a way that doesn't only pertain to skin, because you start seeing that it's such an intricate ecosystem, but it just reminds me of like how the oceans and the desert need each other to function as like this whole world, right? Because like there'll be torrential rains that rain over the desert to hydrate it so that it like leaks back into the ocean. All these like microorganisms that feed the like fishies and like, you know, it's the same. It's such a balance.
Exactly. Our body, our skin, everything's just such a smart ecosystem. And oftentimes it's not just like one thing, you know, it's just kind of thinking about that ecosystem and how do you work different parts of it to really get the results that you want. And then finally, of course, sun protection. Beyond even just the dark spots, wearing SPF is super important because the statistic is very scary. 1 in 5 Americans end up getting skin cancer. So there's also just like a very health related reason to wear broad spectrum SPF.
So let's move into some of your like top recommendations for different types of hyperpigmentation, because, you know, as you said, it is really kind of developing a habit out of things, especially with sunscreen. You want to grab things that you actually enjoy using, so it's a natural habit, you know.
Yeah. And the great part is actually for all the different forms of hyperpigmentation, the approach is actually the same. So you don't have to be like, okay, I have like melasma here and an acne scar here, so now I'm gonna like do 2 different things, because it's all the principle of how to calm the melanocytes down. So we talked about vitamin C. One of my favorite products for vitamin C is by Eco Your Skin, and it's a vitamin C booster powder that I really like because it's powder, and vitamin C, especially ascorbic acid, can kind of oxidize more easily, and this powder just kind of stays put. You can put a little bit of the powder with like an essence, or you can put it with a serum.
Would you say the granule of the vitamin C, like does it dissolve nicely into the serums or the moisturizers that you use? Because I know for some that we've tried, like the Ordinary or Good Molecules, sometimes it could be a little bit coarse.
Yeah, this one really dissolves well, but to your point, what I end up doing oftentimes is I'll first kind of cocktail it in my palm and then apply it. But when you do apply it, it dissolves really well so that it doesn't feel like, sandpapery or anything. I also love the Starlit Glow, which is by Peach Slices. So I drew in my eyebrows and put on some eyeliner to try to put my best foot forward for you guys, but I actually kept my skin bare so that I could demo some of this actually.
That's when you know you can trust anything Alicia says.
So the Starlit Glow has this like lightweight texture, and it kind of just has this like slight subtle shimmer. I wouldn't even call it shimmery, but it's just very, very subtle, and it gives you this boost of radiance. But it has the strawberry extract, which has tons of vitamin C, but it also has licorice, the other ingredient that we talked about that helps to kind of keep that melanin production under control. And then, so this gets really fun because I'm just gonna put like product on after product.
Yes.
And like serum
It's
over
like a live
moisturizer.
demo.
Yeah, we're just gonna go for it here. So the other product that I really love is a Glass Skin Refining Serum. This has 2% niacinamide in here. So the niacinamide we talked about really helps for, making sure that the hyperpigmented process is really kind of stopped before it's really like showing up as like anything visible. And then it's also extremely hydrating because there's 3 different molecular weights of hyaluronic acids. You can use it with vitamin C, with retinol. It plays really well with like a lot of other things. So very easy to incorporate.
Last little question. I'm like,
Yeah.
this vitamin C powder. But some people, express their concern about using vitamin C with niacinamide, right? But for example, the Glass Skin Refining Serum also has niacinamide. So would you say like it's okay to mix that booster vitamin C powder booster in with something like this? Or even, the matcha pudding that also has niacinamide.
So that's a great question. I'm really glad you asked it because that's actually this very common misunderstanding that comes up. So I think it was the 1960s, there was this very inconclusive study that was done that showed niacinamide and vitamin C potentially together could be problematic, but it really isn't. So ultimately what ends up happening is if you mix vitamin C and niacinamide together for a very long time in a very, very hot environment, we're talking beyond like just it's summer hot and you're like microwaving it,
Yeah, in a furnace.
Microwaving your face.
Then a reaction can happen where it can produce something called niacin. The side effects of that is like very intense flushing. It can really irritate skin. But since the 1960s, many studies show that ultimately the two actually work really well together. So I actually really love using niacinamide and vitamin C together.
Do you have any other product recommendations for like hydrating, exfoliant, or sunscreens that you love?
Yes, I love the Wild Dew Treatment Essence, which has the 3 different molecular weights of hyaluronic acid. It looks like water, but it kind of just absorbs into skin super quickly.
Yeah.
It feels like water too.
Yeah.
Your skin just drinks it up.
It's not like one of those toners where it just kind of evaporates on your skin and feels like you didn't put anything on there. It still leaves this like really dewy, hydrated feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. When I'm giving people facials, I will actually like really just with no worries apply layers and layers of this because it won't irritate your skin, but it's like just a hydrating facial. So you can do this for yourself as well. Your skin also will actually appear more plumped up with hydration on top of this helping with the dark spots because it also has a niacinamide in here, but that hydration also so important for those melanocytes. And then the third thing we talked about is exfoliating your skin. And by and large, there's 2 kinds of exfoliating mechanisms. You can chemically exfoliate skin and physically. One of my favorite physical exfoliators is the Be The Skin Non-Stimulus Face Polisher. And this is almost like a very gentle gommage peel that will just kind of really gently exfoliate your skin. And, you know, even when my skin is very sensitive, I really, really enjoy using this product. And then when it comes to chemical exfoliators, there's, you know, two kind of ingredient categories to think about. One is alpha hydroxy acids and beta hydroxy acids. So alpha hydroxy acids, with really like most commonly known as like the superstars glycolic acid as an AHA. And in the AHA category, you know, you also have like lactic acid, citric acid, and so forth. They'll go in and they'll help unglue the dead skin cells. So going back to this chart, all the dead skin cells, the AHA will go in there and help to kind of unglue it without having to actually physically and manually exfoliate, which I really love for especially skin that has acne, because you don't want to spread the bacteria around. Now, BHAs, the way that they work is they're more oil soluble. So salicylic acid as an example, and they'll help, you know, really degunk the lining of pores, because this skin surface goes all the way through to our pores, but then you have oil here. So you have the salicylic acid that can get into it and help really exfoliate past the oils as well. So one exfoliator that I really love is a Super Reboot Resurfacing Mask, because it has 10%.
It's our personal fave.
Yay! So this has 10% glycolic acid, which is quite a bit, and it has 0.5% salicylic acid. Now, with my eczema, there's no way that normally I would be able to use anything as close to 10% glycolic acid, but we created this in a very special way where even people with rosacea or people with very sensitive skin or very, very active breakouts, anyone can really use this product, because it's been combined with all these super soothing ingredients like chamomile, turmeric, blue agave, eggplant. You won't really have to worry too much. However, one thing I always tell people is after they use it, the results are instant. And so you're like, my skin is so soft because of all that exfoliation and my skin is so glowing. We have some folks who are definitely like, I want to do this again tomorrow because my skin is fine.
No.
I'm like, please don't do that.
More is not better. It's more
is
about
not
like
better.
controlled use.
And then the other product that I really love using, and you'll see that like I use this pretty often, is the Good Acids Pore Toner. So this, unlike this one, has just a tiny drop of AHA and BHA, like less than 0.5% of each. And so because it's so tiny, you can actually use this each day even. So imagine the Super Reboot is like a deep dive car wash. Like every nook and cranny of the car is like totally cleansed, like your tire, everything. So your car is sparkly clean, you're good to go, you're like, great. However, let's imagine that you parked your car in like Vegas and it's a desert environment. So the next day, there's just a light layer of dust all over the car. You just wanna wipe that off really easily. This just kind of helps you calibrate because you don't need to do another deep dive car wash.
And this also comes down to what you're suggesting earlier about spending 5 minutes every morning looking and reading your skin to know which product to use when.
Exactly. And then finally, we talked about SPF. There's so many great, I think, SPFs out there.
Yes.
And one that I really love, that I highly recommend, is this SPF by Root Tree. It's a Korean SPF, and it's SPF 50 plus, PA+++, plus 4 pluses. I'm losing track. And what I love about it is that there's no white cast, there's no heaviness, but on top of that, your skin's so soft after.
It's like, it almost feels like a moisturizer.
Yeah, it's just like there's no tackiness. It feels like this lightweight moisturizer. My skin just feels so supple and comfortable after that I actually look forward to like applying this. Like I wanna apply it again, you know?
It blended in instantly.
Right?
Like your skin just absorbed it. There was no working in that you had to do.
There's nothing.
Wow.
And even I'll just show again on the back of my hands where I don't have like, you know, skincare products on and my hand's pretty dry. It just like disappears in. So I have that layer on. I'm actually gonna apply another layer because I'm just like blown away by how like even when I put on another layer, it's not even heavy. It's just, yeah.
That's when you know. Because I feel like sometimes with sunscreens, if you know the right amount, you're supposed to actually apply like a decent amount. So instead of doing it all at once, because sometimes it doesn't blend, I'll do it in maybe 2 layers. But by the time I put on the second layer, it's just pilling and then it's all coming off. And I'm like, what is
the
what's
pilling,
going on?
that's true. This one doesn't pill at all. Like I'm just like, you know, and it just,
Wow.
You're
just
gliding
gliding
across,
across your
and then
face.
it's also just, you know how like the way it feels, it's so comfortable. So yeah,
Sold. We're sold.
Wow, guys, I'm sure that was like a complete lowdown on so many helpful tips.
Now that we went over the different types of hyperpigmentation, why they happen, how to prevent it, and which products and ingredients work best to help with the overall brightening of your skin, Alicia, do you have any parting words for our Beauty Within fam as it pertains to anything skincare or hyperpigmentation specifically?
I would say that, you know, if you're dealing with hyperpigmentation, please don't be discouraged, because oftentimes hyperpigmentation is, you know, something you can resolve. And even if you feel like your hyperpigmentation is stubborn, be patient with it, be persistent with it, and you know, you will most likely see fast improvement.
Yes, all things take time, and I think it's just the learning process in general.
The inside and the outside as well.
So just take heart and just know your skin is this incredible and smart organ, and the more care you put into it, you're really going to see, you know, your skin just thank you right back.
So I think you guys are definitely going to have taken so many notes, and you know, you guys share it on your IG all the time. Where can we find more information? The website? How can we follow Peach and Lily? Alicia Yoon, do you want to just plug your handles for us?
Yes, so our website is peachandlily.com, and our handle is @peachandlily on all of our social channels. And then I am at Alicia Yoon 212.
Yay! If you guys haven't already been following, so wealth of knowledge over there. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, because boy was there a lot that we covered. And thank you so much, Alicia, for taking time to chat with us. It's always such a pleasure, because you know, like as you said, I think we really do connect on the fact that it's this holistic approach and everything is just as important as each other.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me on your channel. I love watching you guys, so this is like such a joy and delight to do this with you guys.
Yay, and hopefully there'll be more.
Yes, and if you guys have any questions, please leave them down below. We could do this again, Alicia, in the coming weeks. Anytime. Any topic, just let us know. I want to do it. We'll make it happen.
So thank you so much, everyone, for watching this episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Hope you guys are happy and safe.
Bye. Bye. Learning is such a core part of our brand. From day one, this is actually a service we provided to our community, and you don't have to be a customer. You don't have to even have like an email account with us. But if you have a skincare question, you can email lily@peachandlily.com or hello@peachandlily.com. It's basically our Ask Lily program to play on our name, Peach and Lily.
So cute.
And only our licensed in-house estheticians are the ones who are answering your skincare questions.